Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
And I'm Allie.
And we're already on episode 6 this season. Wow.
Crazy.
How are you doing?
I'm alright. I played for the Manchester Lionesses on Saturday.
I saw you posted on Instagram, actually. That was really cute.
Yep, 6-0 win, which is a defender, nothing better than a clean sheet.
That's exactly what you wrote on Instagram.
It is what exactly I wrote on Instagram, but it's true facts. So, and then I had a nice message from my captain about how I played. So
nice. And was it the Laces that joined our Instagram Live?
No, it was the Manchester Bees, who are the team I play for.
Oh, okay.
In a Flexi League.
That was really fun.
So yeah, shout out to Janine, who compared me to Millie Bright.
Shout out to everybody who joined that.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and we'll come on to it too. I want to shout out Colette, who coaches the team that I play for, who brought teal duct tape for all of us on Sunday to put on our arm, similar to, obviously, the England-US game, which we're not going to talk about today.
It never happened.
Just kidding. We're going to talk about it, unfortunately. Because also, for those who are wondering, I made a bet with our very own Helen Hardy. And if England won, I had to recreate this absolutely hilarious photo of her in Hyde Park, which I can't wait to post it, mainly because this photo of her is hilarious. And if I won, if the U.S. won, she was going to have to wear U.S. attire sipping tea. Obviously, we know what happened, so I have a bet to uphold, and I'm going to.
So let's talk about the game, but let's first off talk about the amazing players and like how wonderful it was to see them play after what had been such an awful month for them.
Mainly week, and like, not that it didn't affect the England players. It obviously affects everybody, but specifically, I mean, just big props to the US players for stepping foot on that field.
And it was great to see the thing at the beginning where they had the Protect the Players banner and they were all intermingled, and it felt like a proper coming together, which was really sweet and nice.
It really did. Yeah. You don't sound that excited to talk about the game. This is our game of the week, everybody.
I'm very excited to talk about this game.
Let's get into it. We are talking England versus USA, game of the week. We had to do it because obviously Allie's English. I'm from the US. It was 90,000 people at Wembley Stadium. Just a ridiculous build up to a friendly that I've hardly really seen before.
It's the most people ever turned up for a US friendly.
Wow. Is that real?
Yep, that's a fact. So it's the most people that's ever turned up for a US friendly, and it's the second most attended England women's friendly, only beaten by Germany, England a few years ago, which was also at Wembley, because we have a bigger rivalry with Germany than we do with the US. So I can see why more people would want to.
Maybe you did, not anymore. We have to talk about everybody on Twitter saying that the England fans were booing Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah, and I don't understand why. Like, what has Rapinoe... I mean, Rapinoe's done many things, but what has Rapinoe done to annoy the British so much? I don't get it.
Well, I've heard a lot of theories on this. I texted Helen, who was at the game, and she was saying that it was just when Pino was taking any free kick that she was getting booed, not just like any time she had the ball, which I suppose is different. But I really do think you guys would have booed anybody who wasn't wearing an England shirt that day. And maybe it was just, I said the other day, I was like, I think it's just because Alex Morgan wasn't there and they wanted somebody to boo.
Let's go into it. Let's do it. Okay, let's just start off. I say it was a great game. Wasn't that great a game, to be honest, for either team. It was an game, but the hype made it fun.
I feel like there are going to be people who disagree with you on that. Why do you think it was an game on both sides?
We was expecting more intensity on the pitch between both teams, and it just felt a bit lackluster. And I don't know if
what?
Yeah, I felt it was a bit lackluster.
Are you serious? I thought you meant like it was a sloppy game, but I have no idea what you're talking about lackluster. It was a wild, it was physical, it was really physical game.
You can't base the whole game off of Georgia Stanway and Lindsay Horan. Like,
no, I'm not. Like, Bronze and Rapinoe went at it. It was a really physical game. All center backs had like really wild tackles throughout. It was, I don't know what you're talking about. It was a really intense game on the pitch.
No, I expected more, I think. I think it had been built up so big that I was expecting more of a matchup than there actually was.
Wait, but okay, so hold on. you have to make a distinction between if you mean like the intensity emotionally on the field or like the sloppiness of it.
No, I mean the intensity, because like sloppy we've discussed before and we've made like conversations about what sloppy is. I mean intensity as in like we've been talking about this rivalry. It'd been built up. Yes, there had been some like moments with like the tackles and the physicality, but the actual game, it felt like it was very one amazing moment and then lots of nothingness, and then one amazing moment.
Oh, I totally disagree.
Of course, you do.
I don't know what you're talking about. The entire first half was wild. There were 3, arguably 4 goals in the first half. Like, I don't know how you can look at that and be like, there was nothing. There was something at all moments. It was sloppy. So, I mean, let's talk about it. Do you want to do USA or do you want to do England first?
Let's do the USA first. There's a lot more to talk about with the USA.
We've got to talk about the US.
I personally think that the age of the US showed. And I think because they were a very young team, as you point out, there was an average 20 caps on that field.
Are you stealing my statistic?
I am stealing a statistic. But it's a very young team. It was a very young team with a couple of veterans. And I think you were seeing that youth and that inexperience. We saw that with a couple of the rash tackles that were made. We saw that with how Hemp got past the defenders for the first goal. You saw the inexperience from the very young team. So I think that was an issue.
I think it was not just inexperience. It was inexperience paired with players who hadn't played together that much.
Yeah.
The main difference and why everybody was going into this game saying like England is going to roll over the US, England's on like firing on all cylinders, they're in top form right now and the US is not, is because England was a solidified team that had played together, practiced together, knew how to play with each other within the system, and the US is very much not that yet. I think it was partially age on the side of the field of Emily Fox, because Emily Fox has been, yes, she's young. Yes, she's newer to the team, but she has been one of the most consistent standout players of the U.S. so far. Her getting a concussion really early on and Haley Mace coming in, getting thrown into the fire. That was Haley Mace's first cap. Not only was that her first cap, that was her first U.S. camp. So she gets called up to the U.S. camp for the first time, has some training sessions, and then gets tossed into a game with zero warning because Emily Fox gets a concussion. Mind you, yes, Haley Mace has experience playing in the back line. She has spent the entire season playing in the center midfield for Kansas City. So also, you could say at a position that she's unfamiliar with. So in that sense, age and inexperience really bit us in the butt. On the other side of it, I think it was a simple speed thing. People wonder it, and I would love to see Crystal Dunn in the front line because I think that she obviously has earned it and deserves it. And also, a game like this is a pretty great way to expose why Crystal Dunn plays in the back line for the U.S. Yeah. She's level-headed. She's so smart on the ball. In a system where you need your outside backs to get forward, she can, and she's dangerous. And she adds that speed component to a back line that doesn't have a lot of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Vlatko got his pairings wrong, if I'm honest.
You want to talk about the center backs?
I want to talk about the center backs. Hindsight is 2020, but I would have made the changes earlier.
When would you have made the changes?
After the goal got disallowed. That early. I would have made the changes.
After the US second goal?
Mm-hmm. Because you can see something is not working. If you're a coach, you will look at that and go, that is not working. What can I do? So I would have made the changes earlier.
I don't know, actually. I disagree.
Shocked.
Like you're saying, Look, Vlatko, in my opinion, started Naomi Girma and Alana Cook. And if you tuned into our Instagram Live, not to keep bringing it up, but you heard us say this before. I think that Vlatko started Girma and Cook together because they're both young. They both are very smart center backs. But obviously, Becky Sauerbrunn is going to have one of those starting roles. So who fills the other one? What a great way to see how they both perform in a World Cup type environment than to throw them both into what you're going, the closest environment you're going to get to a World Cup environment, throw them both in and see what happens. And it was very clear. And I don't mind that he left them in after halftime. They make the adjustments that needed to be made. And, England didn't score in the second half, so you could say that they did adjust well. And then bring Becky in at the end of the game to get a little run out. I'm fine with that. But I do think that it was, and I don't want to write Alana Cook off just from this one game.
No, I don't.
But also Naomi Girma she's a stud.
Okay, so this is how I would have done it. Okay, and maybe this is why I'm not the coach of the US national team for many reasons, but maybe this
that's the only reason.
Yeah, this is the only reason. But the way I would have done it, you've got 2 friendlies coming up, right? You've got England and you've got Spain. I would have had Becky playing in both, and I would have paired her with Alana in one of them and Naomi in the other. Because if you're saying Becky is getting that guaranteed starting spot for the World Cup, you need to see how they work with De Bruyne. You need to see how that works.
I think Becky's going to work with either one of them.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the other one can work with Becky.
And also, those are 2 very different games. Like, we really don't know what to expect from the US-Spain game. But, okay, so we've talked about the back line. We need to talk about the midfield because this is kind of where everybody gets hung up.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
The one that I texted you about?
Games like this is when you notice Julie Ertz is not here.
And it's just so true. And I'll take it a step further and say we noticed Julie Ertz's absence and we noticed Sam Mewis's absence.
And I will say, we had this argument before, but I will say Haran did not have a great game for you guys. And I will say, and you say it's because I don't like Haran, and I don't, but I can see when she has a good game and when she doesn't. And I don't know, maybe it was our midfield that was pushing her further back than she should be, but she was not effective in the midfield. And unfortunately, you also had Andy Sullivan, who I didn't even notice was playing until I said to you...
You literally texted me in response to my Julie Ertz text. You were like, well, you need Andy Sullivan. I was like, she's literally on the field.
Because she's not doing anything if she is.
Okay, so I think that you bring up... So this is what I should have said right after the game when we were talking about this, but I was blinded by my anger that I was just like, no, Lindsay had a good game. We're talking about the sloppiness of this game, and it was sloppy all around. We'll keep it to the U.S. focus right now because it was really sloppy for the U.S. So it's hard for me to look at Lindsay Horan's game, like I was saying to you before, and say, oh, well, she was sloppy, so she had a bad game. I think she had a great game defensively, but I think it's larger than one player here. The whole midfield rotation was not working. Andy Sullivan can't cover all of that ground on her own. That's something that very few people, maybe just Julie Ertz and Keira Walsh, can really do. So the system itself is meant to work around that so that Andy Sullivan doesn't have to cover all of that ground, meaning maybe Horan drops back, maybe Lavelle drops back. And the rotations is what was broken for the U.S.
Okay.
That's why I don't think it's just Lindsay Horan. Like, it was the rotations. Like, Sullivan didn't have a good game. Horan didn't. It's not just that. It's the rotations. I do want to call out Sophia Smith, who, listen, she's 21 years old. She is 21 years old. I'm sorry, but I just reheard that, and I was like, this girl's been around for ages. How is she only 21? And she's only getting better. I thought she had a great game. She was player of the game for me for the US.
Her and Rodman were my favourite players for the US. Trinity Rodman had a fantastic game, I thought.
Had a great game at the number 9, which she doesn't usually play. All right, so we've talked about the US. Now let's talk about England. Do you feel like there was pressure on England going into this game?
For sure. For sure. It was already built up to be like the champions of the world versus the champions of England, of Europe. It was that sort of, you know, if it was like a boxing match, it would be like the 2 heavyweights going in. And we don't have the best track record against the US. I think we've drew with you and beat you once, maybe, in recent history. I think one of the biggest things we've got is we're now trying to find who is going to be our starting number 9. Now, we couldn't put the player that we would have liked to the test because Russo called out injured. So it was a huge bummer that she couldn't make it for that particular squad. So we used Chloe Kelly, and I think Chloe Kelly did well. I do think, you know, she was going there, she was fighting for it, she was up there. Was she quite number 9? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly performs better on the wing. It's kind of like how we were talking about Trinity Rodman. Like, she played well at the 9, even though it's not her position. I'm glad she got the start, though, because she deserved it after what she did in the Euros. Shirt off, Brandy Chastain style. But yeah, I would agree with you. Not a standout game, but not a poor performance.
No, exactly. I just think she works better when it's her and Hemp on the wings and they've got someone they can feed it through to. So I don't think she's our answer to number 9. We're probably going to have to wait until Russo's fit again to see if that's the right fit.
I want to ask, though, because you said at the beginning that you thought it was poor on both sides. Yeah. So you were not super happy overall with this English performance.
Defensively, we were shocking. And I don't know if it's because we were missing Leah. Actually, no, I do know. We were missing Leah Williamson.
Yeah, that's probably a big thing.
And that was a big thing with her leadership and everything else. I do like Millie Bright as a captain. I've got nothing against her. But I thought defensively we were weak. And also I kept getting my players confused because there's one really stupid moment with one of the defenders playing a ball back to Earps that Sophia Smith jumped onto and would have been an early goal for the US. And I was screaming that it was Daly, and it turns out it was Greenwood. And my other half went, well, it's a Daly thing to do.
The back line was getting their pockets picked a lot by the US. And speaking of Rachel Daly, I really feel bad doing this because it's not her fault, but she did not have a good game again at outside back.
Her position.
Yeah.
It's not her position. And to be fair, somebody pointed out, and I get their point, which is England is top heavy in strikers and midfielders, and that's what, so you want her on the pitch rather than not, but slotting her into that back position isn't working. It's just not where she wants to be. She always comes forward because that's her natural instinct, is to come forward, but then she doesn't track back fast enough, or she gets the ball taken off her too quickly.
It's top heavy in the same way that the US is, and the back outside backs are maybe the weaker positions. It is a little disappointing that when your number 9 gets hurt, like, if I'm Rachel Daly, I'm a little insulted by that your number 9's hurt, and I've been the top scorer basically in the NWSL. I've had an outstanding start to the Aston Villa season, and I still don't get that call. Like, that's pretty disappointing.
I was going to say, because we have defenders that could have come on. We've got, like, Esme Morgan, we've got Carter, we've got players that could come on into that position that we could shunt Daly forward. As just for these friendlies, just to see it, because there's no real, like, as much as it felt like there was something on the line, there was nothing on the line. We're playing 2 teams. Why not? Why not try her up front?
2 of your midfielders were the stars of the show.
Yes.
And it was Stanners and Walsh.
Yeah. Kira Walsh is finally getting the recognition that she deserves, because we've been shouting the praises of Kira Walsh for years, and she's the most expensive player in women's history now, and for good reason. Like, Walsh dominated that midfield and picked up all of the loose passes that our defenders were. She was just here, there, and everywhere. I'd love to have seen her heat map, because she was here quietly doing what Kira Walsh does.
We talked about her for years. I think everybody, in addition to loving Becky Sauerbrunn, the other thing all of the WOSO community can agree on is that we're happy that Kira Walsh is finally getting her dues.
Exactly.
We highlighted the matchup before the game of Stanway versus Haran, and that did not disappoint.
That got spicy.
Yeah, I know you specifically loved that.
I did. Like, it got absolutely spicy. And somebody tweeted Georgia being like, I feel like Georgia would stick her head in a blender if it meant getting the ball. And Georgia Stanway replied, yep.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
I love her so much. She's such a brat. But
I love her so much. That's incredible. I mean, I don't know if there's a better way to describe Georgia Stanway than that. Do we end on this note of, was it offside or was it onside?
Okay, we got to talk about it because everybody's talking about it. Yeah, like, we saw VAR used well, which was in the original penalty call. The butt ball! The penalty call that we had against Hemp. And you could see it. Bronzy was like, don't even worry about it, because VAR's going to pick it up and see that it hit your butt, it didn't hit your arm. And that's what happened, and that is what VAR is supposed to be used for. Right. It's supposed to be used for calls like that, where it's like the ref got it wrong.
I totally agree.
And that would have changed the game.
There needs to be rules written in that's like, if it's a fraction of a centimeter, then you cannot call it. Because, and I know there's people, okay, I'm starting to get onto VAR. We're not going to get onto VAR here, everybody. At the end of the day, It's been a few days since the game. I accept the reality of the fact that it was called offside and England won the game. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. I'm very proud of how the U.S. rebounded because that's a hard thing to let go of. Speaking as somebody who was sitting on my couch and couldn't let go of it.
You really couldn't.
I really couldn't. And that was U.S. versus England. We did it.
Yeah. Without you crying. It's a win.
Wait till the World Cup. Let's go around the world, around the world.
Over to Scotland, who had a cracking game on Thursday. They beat Austria 1-0. A great goal by Abby Harrison in the 92nd minute of extra time has now moved the Scottish team into the World Cup playoff final versus the Republic of Ireland.
Over to Wales. A similar story for the Welsh team. A beautiful long shot by Jess Fishlock broke the deadlock in the first half of extra time. The 1-0 win over Bosnia now leads them to their group's final against Switzerland for a place in the World Cup.
Sweden drew with Spain in Sweden last week 1-1 and faced another tough opponent in France on Tuesday of this week. We're recording before that game happens, but check on the scoreline. Spain also faced the US on Tuesday, another game that was much anticipated, especially with everything that's happening in the Spanish Federation. Make sure you check that score too.
Finally, over to Brazil. Brazil played 2 friendlies against both Norway and Italy, winning both of them. Brazil beat Norway handily 4-0 and narrowly beat Italy 1-0. This side continues to improve from game to game.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
We are talking everything NWSL playoffs, and we have got a very special guest with us. It's Tim from our NWSL Crewe. You will have heard him on the Patreon. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited about these playoffs. We've got 2 massive games. We've got Houston versus Kansas City and San Diego Wave versus Chicago. We're going to go straight in with Houston versus Kansas City. Tim, I'm going to start with you as you are our guest. What are you excited about? Who do you think is going to take it?
Well, I think there's kind of 2 biggest storylines in this game, one for each team. For Houston, it's the fact that not only is this their first ever playoff appearance in the history of them being part of this league, but it's also a home playoff appearance. So it's kind of like a 2 birds with 1 stone kind of situation. You have a new coach coming in halfway through this season. You have a little bit of shuffled player personnel midseason with Ebony Salmon. They brought in a player like Valerie Govan as well midseason. You have obviously then the outflow of a huge iconic player like Rachel Daly. So this team has seen some challenges this year, and to have them finally make the playoffs this year is a huge accomplishment. And I think they have a pretty good outlook. On the flip side, you have a team like Kansas City. This is also as the Kansas City Current, not the previous renditions of Kansas City clubs, but the Kansas City Current. This is their first ever playoff appearance. So it's very exciting for them as well. And their kind of story arc has been, they have those big preseason signings in Sam Mewis and Lynn Williams. Those players go down at the beginning of the season, and they spend the rest of the season kind of figuring out who they are without those players. And we've seen some other players step up big time and be all the difference for this team.
I want to talk about Kansas City because I always want to talk about Kansas City because they're just such an interesting group with exactly what Tim just mentioned of like, we thought that the storylines this year were going to be, they're good because of Sam Mewis. They're good because they have Lynn Williams, so on and so forth. And instead what we've seen is a team that's gelled under great coaching with a midfield that is probably one of the most underrated in all of the NWSL. You've got Haley Mace just made her first U.S. women's national team debut. You've got Scott in the midfield, who I actually want to call out. This is a big storyline here. won't be playing in this game due to a red card. And I think that that's going to be a massive detriment to Kansas City and honestly could potentially cost them this game. For me, this is a game of so many goals. And that's no disrespect to their back line, either of these teams' back lines. But like, if you look at the goal difference, the goal differentials for each team is pretty terrible. And I just, it's going to be a game of goals. It's going to be a game, I think, won and lost in the attack. And to stay on Kansas City, I think Scott missing is going to be massive. It's going to put a lot of pressure on that 3-back that Kansas City likes to play, because they like to play that 3-5-2. And Scott usually plays the role of the 6 that floats in front of the 3. And to miss that as a core piece, I mean, we saw it in the US game. It's like missing Julie Ertz, right?
Whoa. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with this. Missing Desiree Scott's obviously huge, especially not just the fact that she is that central glue of this team, but the fact that this is the playoffs. She is a gold medalist. She is a player who has been in the high pressure situations. Now, they do have a player waiting in the wings in Alex Loera, who I think will be a really strong replacement. One of, I think, the best rookies so far this season. She can play higher in the midfield. She can play anywhere along that 3-back. She can play the 6 as well. I think she'll slot right in and do fine. But do they need fine in an away playoff game with the rest of the season hanging in the threads? I don't know. So I think that Loera will fill in. She'll try her best. She'll do well. But will she be Desiree Scott? No.
It does feel like it's kind of a Kansas City team. They're not limping in. Like, I don't think that their previous result, having lost their last regular season game, honestly has any impact on them coming into the playoffs, especially with such a big break. But I do think that missing Desiree Scott has a big impact. And to me, in that sense, it feels a little bit like they might limp into a Houston's dash that seems to be firing on all cylinders. But the saving grace that they have is that Houston is a hit or miss every day. You don't know what you're going to get. So honestly, this game is a massive question mark for everybody in terms of how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned these teams being hit or miss, which I think is very interesting for both sides of this game. This includes the Current as well. They are destroying teams, and then they get their butts handed to them by Chicago. Then they destroy teams again. Then they lose handily to a Louisville team at the bottom of the table. So both of these teams, they have been very up and down the last few weeks. Both teams, I think, were hoping to solidify a playoff spot a few weeks earlier than they did. And kind of now looking at Houston a little bit more, I am really liking, though, some of these offensive pieces and how they've kind of reconstructed their midfield as well. We talked a lot earlier this season about bringing in Maria Sanchez. That's been incredible. Huge. I think Nichelle Prince is having just a little bit better of a season every single year. She's just getting that much a little bit better every single year. And I think they've reconstructed their midfield a little bit and kind of changed their midfield philosophy. If you look back under Clarkson, the past few seasons, they've been very end-to-end. They're very run and gun, so to say. They are all forward and they're all back. And I think now they're kind of putting in some of these players like a Marissa Viggiano that are a little bit more stable, and if that makes sense. They're kind of maintaining their position. They're maintaining their shape. They're creating outlets, creating looks, moving forward, but also maintaining that defensive structure. So I think that shift has allowed them to kind of set up their attackers a little bit better, and now they're here.
I totally agree. They're so dynamic. Lest we forget, I mean, Ebony Salmon was an end of the season pickup, but they also got Caprice Didasco, previous NWSL Defensive Player of the Year from Gotham. And that is a massive pickup going into the playoffs where, frankly, the defense is going to be what wins games.
Yeah, I agree. Didasco has been huge. I was a bit shocked that Gotham let her walk, but that being said, if she wanted to walk, then if a player wants to leave, it's kind of out of your hands at that point as a club. So, but yeah, absolutely huge pickup for Houston. And I do think that she can make a big difference in this game.
So moving on very quickly before we hit the next game. Predictions. Who's going to win and by what score?
Okay. Well, I've been, big upping Kansas City for a long time. So I'm sticking with KC. And I think it's going to be, if I'm bold, I'm saying it's 3-2. I'm going to say 3-2. I think it's KC 3-2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I mean,
bold. That's a big game.
I love the bold approach. I don't think I'm going to be quite that bold though. So I do see KC taking this one, but I'm going to go for perhaps like a 2-1 scoreline instead of a 3-2.
I almost went 2-1 and then I was like, be bold, Sarah. 2-1 is boring.
Over to the next matchup. We are talking about newbies here, San Diego Wave versus Tim's beloved Chicago Red Stars. So I'm going to start again with you, Tim. What are we thinking about this match?
So this is, I think, a very interesting matchup. These teams have played each other very closely both times in the regular season. Overall, with the composite score, the Wave just edging out the Red Stars on composite score between their two previous fixtures. But I think the really interesting story here for me in terms of trying to predict how this game will go is who is available and healthy, who is even going to be there. We saw players for the Wave like Alex Morgan, Taylor Korniak, Abby Dahlkemper. These are players that are all known to be carrying a varying level of injuries right now. Will they be healthy? You have a player for the Wave like Sophia Jakobsen who's flying to Europe to play with Sweden, then flying back. So is she really going to be 100% and ready to go for a full 90 minutes? So I don't really know how to read them. And then on the flip side, you have Chicago Red Stars, a player like Bianca St. George's. Yeah, she's off playing for Canada, but she will be missing this one anyways. She was given due to her hand gestures, her two-handed gesture, I guess I will say.
The Amber Brooks special.
The Amber Brooks special, yeah, exactly. She not only missed the last NWSL regular season game, she will miss this game as well. I think that the Red Stars do have two players who can fill in Sarah Lubert and Rachel Hill, but those players both played long games the last weekend, and they're both known to be carrying injuries as well. I think the return of Zoe Morse into the central back line for Chicago will be huge. She only missed the last game. She will be back this game. But you have other players too. Morgan Gautreau is still coming back from injury. Erin Wright has been in and out all season with injury. Whether or not she's 100% is yet to be determined. We saw Mal Pugh get called into the U.S. team and then was perhaps asked to be excused from the U.S. camp. There's been some speculation as to why that is. It's been officially listed as a family commitment. But we all have seen what we have seen in games, and she's clearly dealing with some sort of lower body injuries, as we've seen in the last few games of the season. So who knows? We all know where my heart lies. But I think this game is harder to predict for me than the Dash KC game.
Truly. Yeah. It's wild how many question marks there are in this game. Everything is kind of up for grabs. We can't even predict what these starting lineups will be. It's not even like, well, we know minus one player. Both of these teams have 3 question marks at least all across the field in terms of starting lineup. So it's really hard to look at either of these teams and know what we're going to see. I do think that the edge is given to San Diego. I say this every year, Chicago, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm so sorry.
But to be the bridesmaid, you have to make it to the wedding.
Yeah, that's true. And they always do. They do have some kind of like pizzazz in the playoffs, and they do make it there. Oh God, you're talking me into maybe.
Well, here's what I'll say. I guess at this point of the season, making the playoffs for Chicago is already a huge overachievement on expectations, right? This is a team that made almost 0 off-season acquisitions, 0 big name acquisitions, that's for sure, after losing several key players. And then after doing that, everyone was like, oh, they're not going to be as good. They're going to fall to the end of the table, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then they lost tons of starters for maternity leave, season-ending injuries, and everyone was like, wow, now this team is decimated. They have no chance. But here we are. They're in the playoffs. And so some teams just have that gritty like down to earth, get the job done, fight for your life kind of mentality that gets them into situations like this. And is it really overachieving when you're always overachieving, or is that just achieving?
We're getting deep, Tim.
Let's get to your picks. Tim, you can go first.
Okay.
I am going to go with the Red Stars. I think they have they have the veteran core that knows how to do it. You look at players like Vanessa DiBernardo, Dani Colaprico. These are your grinded out players. These are the players that can really make these moments count for your team. And they've been with Chicago for a long time. They know the system. They know the situations. And I will say that if Chicago can score first, they're a team that is really good at holding on to a lead. But if San Diego scores first, they're a team that this season has really struggled to pull games back and become relevant in the game again. So I think it really relies on those defensive midfield presences to really lock it down. But I am going to say that Chicago is going to squeak it out. But I'm actually going to give it a little bit more of a score, a little bit more juice. I'm going to say 2-0 for Chicago.
Oof. I think you bring up a really good point that we didn't touch on, which is veterans and people who have been there and done that before. Chicago has a lot of them, and San Diego doesn't have a lot of them in terms of in the NWSL. And that's an interesting point, Tim. That could really be the difference. I got to say San Diego. I got to say it. Home team, Casey Stoney, which we haven't brought up yet.
I was going to say Sarah would never go against Casey Stoney.
She would never.
In Stoney we trust. Amen. That's all I have to say. I could really see this game going into overtime. I'm not going to lie. I could see it going into it's like 1-1. Just people are really knuckling through it. I'm going to go 2-1 San Diego in overtime. Alex Morgan sips some tea and scores the final goal. But time will tell, and we'll talk more about it next week.
Yep, that is all we've got for the NWSL. So thank you again so much, Tim, for coming on. We'll get you back for the next rounds. And yeah, where can people find you, follow you if you want them to do
People
that?
know where they can find him.
Yeah,
all over our page. Go to
honestly,
our website.
and if you don't want to find me, that I'm okay with that too.
What are you talking about? You're the most active social media user I know, Tim.
I'm just here for the good time. Let's be real. But yeah, I mean, I mostly use Twitter. You can find me liking most of the Woso Show things. I think the Woso Show does a great job. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter.
Wow, look at that.
We're blushing now.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Tim.
So that's it, everybody, for another episode of the Women's Soccer Show. Make sure you check out all of our socials where we've got updated content on there. And please check out our Patreon because we have got some amazing interviews on there. You like some of the stuff that you've heard on our episodes? We've got unedited, extra long interviews on our Patreon. So please check that out. There's more information on our website, Linktree. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. And as ever, I've been Allie.
I've been Sarah. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.